Today we're going to explore in detail an interesting and in-depth analysis. We'll be breaking down the game Sniper. If you want to skill up and get published, go to the CAS.AI website and fill out the publishing form. If you just want to monetize your game, simply go to the CAS.AI website and fill out the mediation form.
I have some connection to this product as well, so I'll also share some of the negative experiences. We got this project about 2 years ago. I wasn't the one managing it, but I was keeping an eye on it. We ran into a problem. Something was wrong with Firebase. The product had a metric of 7 minutes playtime, and honestly that looked pretty dismal. So we started digging into it and an unpleasant issue came up. The setup and in fact the product itself were handed over to us incomplete and not in the right form. So basically we had to start working with what we were given. And of course we ran into the fact that the product looked really bad, worse than it does now. What we managed to do with Oleg was to improve the funnel, let's say, of getting people into the level, and actually just into the game itself. And that's where the good story of this project began. Yes, that's what the product looks like. That is, the levels themselves are short and uninteresting. The NPC behavior is actually quite dumb. They really don't have any complex routes, nor do they have any interesting branches at all. The controls are a bit confusing. Sometimes it lags, especially the controls in sniper mode. It's not intuitive how to exit it, because sometimes it's really hard to swipe and find the enemy. Now there are even hints, which didn't exist before at all, and the controls are like this. It's not entirely casual. One of the problematic aspects is that there's no way to replay a level you liked. The game is linear. The rate me feature didn't work for me. When I gave it 5 stars, it didn't redirect me to the store or prompt me to leave a review. That needs to be checked. Sometimes the chosen spot feels a bit lacking. The overview is pretty uninteresting. If we're talking about a sniper, you'd expect to be able to hide somewhere, to attack from some concealed places.
Subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon so you don't miss out on game dev news and new case studies from our world.
It really bothers me, a point Oleg and I have discussed before, but we understood that it would be very labor intensive and time consuming to address here. You have a mission and you keep encountering the same masked guy over and over, but it's really boring in terms of the variety of such characters. They should at least stand out somehow compared to the others so you can tell which one is your target. There's just no interest in constantly killing the same masked guys. One interesting thing in this project is the emphasis you get when you land a headshot and so on, but again, it's displayed at the bottom of the screen and you can't really see it. So there's a pop-up, which is a super cool feature. Well, it's common in all these shooters. There are clear highlights that appear whenever you get a headshot, and you definitely feel a kind of privilege compared to other players. But with the map's UI, it's honestly not really clear where you are at any given moment. There seem to be these red indicators present, but again, at this point, they're hard to see and there's no way to replay. Let's say, for example, you really enjoyed a level and want to play it again. By the way, I happen to catch a certain level. There's a problem. Not every level is labeled with its number. It's even hard to explain to testers later on which level a bug was found. In this screenshot, my mission is to kill the guy. I want to shoot the barrel. It doesn't shoot. Why it won't shoot is unclear. Before this, I completed missions blowing everyone up with barrels. Let's say I go into our inventory and select a brand new weapon from the available options. I don't understand what its advantage is compared to another one. There are no metrics like accuracy, damage, or anything else. Also, we have a skin, but what are its benefits or enhancements? And then there's this moment of adding the option to earn money from ads. Here, it feels like the ad is for the ADS button itself, not for whatever they actually want to push on you. By the way, I got a pop-up notification saying we destroyed someone, but there was absolutely no prior information that I had a target to kill. And what is it really? That you get a super reward?
Yura, it was only on the map. If you simply go to the map and click the certain button at the top, only if you do that, they show you this information. Otherwise, it won't pop up yet.
Here again is a pop-up saying we have completed some accomplishment in the game once again. It pops up at the bottom where you just don't see it, so you don't feel a sense of progression. In terms of performance, Misha, what should we check? We need to see exactly how much RAM the game actually uses. When it's running with internet, without internet, and with ads. So, while I was taking screenshots and uploading them to the cloud, the game rebooted. Apparently it doesn't have enough RAM and basically it ends up rebooting. We have absolutely no way to control the character at all times. But that's a hypothesis. Maybe try at least running to a point first. And then, I don't know, switch between crawling, sneaking, or running.
First of all, I would recommend carefully and thoroughly analyzing both projects. That's about level design. Agent Hunt and Wild West Cowboy by Homa, these are the two top shooters in this genre. Shooters are always problematic. That's with the level design process. We made that free play apocalypse game, and it really took off very quickly. But we spent a long time working on the level design. Take a look. The only reason why the pistol isn't used, it's because we're usually always standing a bit too far away and never really get close to the enemies. Even if you look at Agent Hunt, the character is always close to the enemies and hides in some corners. So I would try to make the level design as close to that style as possible, just not in a city, but maybe in some buildings. He moves around the base, and he moves forward automatically. So in the level design, he shoots and then runs forward automatically. If you add a mechanic where he hides like the enemies, it would fit perfectly. Then at least you have a challenge for the player. Otherwise, they just stand there like statues. Obviously, it's not interesting to shoot at them. Another thing is, there aren't any sniper missions, like the ones with hostages, or where you have a target and the guy is walking along a path and there are people around, bystanders you can't hit. First, you have to spot him. Once you see him, you need to hit him. Maybe he's carrying a suitcase or a virus. Maybe he's a soldier, and you have to make sure not to lose him. That's the kind of mission that's missing. Another thing that's probably missing is maybe some character upgrade parameters, like health, reload speed, movement speed, things like that. That's what's missing, because right now, for upgrades, they just offer me 1,000 coins right away. But it would be better if, at least after the second mini location or level, the player had the chance to upgrade so they could see that their power increases, that they shoot stronger or reload faster. And right now I just earn 1,000 coins after playing for about 7 minutes. I would concentrate on level design and enemy behavior. That's probably really the most important thing right now, and in shooters that's actually the main thing. So here, I would break down these two projects to the smallest details, especially the first 10 to 12 minutes, and try to replicate the level geometry as closely as possible using the current models, and also try to make the enemy behavior as similar as possible.
Everything I showed you today, dear viewers, we carefully looked at using AppMagic. It's actually one of our trusted partners that helps us thoroughly analyze games in terms of in-app purchases and SDKs, and it truly has a lot of interesting and useful features. Highly recommend them. They're great guys. Reach out if you need a link.
I'll also go through my points. A little background first. I played on iOS. I completed 22 levels. So based on that experience, here are my thoughts. First point. I completed almost everything with the pistol. So I also made a note about this bullet slow feature. I didn't see it. Second point. Everything's repetitive. As a result, I would suggest checking out the game Sniper Siege. There are some cool features there, like being able to shoot off a body part if you hit someone in the arm, for example. The guy falls but doesn't die, so you have to finish him off. Plus, there are modes where you need to cover your teammates, which actually gives you a reason to run around with a rifle instead of a sniper rifle. I didn't understand the point of the shotgun. In all 22 levels, I never once left the gameplay experience. I didn't even see like the main menu, the graphics settings, or my player profile. I honestly wouldn't say anything at all about just how mediocre the graphics and effects are if more than 1 or 2 of our revenue didn't actually come from the US, and if more than 1 or 2 of the devices in use weren't 5 years old or more. These are usually the kinds of devices whose users already have certain expectations for the level of graphics.
I would honestly like to see a difficulty curve. It seems like there isn't one. The difficulty is very linear, increases very slowly, and that increase is hardly even noticeable. I would really like to see a classic well-designed difficulty curve, with a noticeably more challenging level appearing every 3 to 4 stages. In addition, I would also suggest achieving this by gradually introducing officers among the enemies, so that not all of the enemies you encounter on a given level are simply just regular grunts. For example, after we've defeated the first boss, it would be nice if, in particular, boss-like officers started appearing among the enemies and behaved in a more skilled and capable way than the regular soldiers. That way, it would add a bit more challenge and complexity to the game. Besides, I would recommend gradually increasing the soldiers' experience from level to level, and starting from level 3 or 4, they should at least require 2 shots to take down. Shooting yourself with a pistol would then make sense, as it would encourage players to buy new weapons, save up for soft currency, or purchase some in-app packs with overpowered weapons. Accordingly, a headshot should of course kill instantly if the enemy isn't wearing a helmet. Shots to the body should take away a certain amount of HP. Right now it seems like enemies don't have XP, they only have helmets, and only bosses have XP. Next, I would suggest diversifying those elements like the camera, drone, and that door panel. For example, enemies could be hiding behind some kind of awning that's propped up with a stick, and for instance, we would need to shoot through the stick so that the awning or maybe some wall collapses, allowing us to see the enemies and start shooting at them. Or, for example, the enemies might be standing on some kind of moving platform, hidden behind, say, containers or something like that, and we shoot at the control panel of this platform, causing it to move out from behind the container. So these are the kinds of elements involving hidden opponents, just to add some variety to these gameplay elements. So we have several types of levels in the game. For example, we have classic levels, and there are levels where we're in a helicopter. But I would also suggest, for instance, levels like, for example, when we're defending ourselves sitting at a base, waiting for a Bradley to pick us up for evacuation, and endless waves of enemies attack us, and we have to shoot them off until the Bradley arrives, for a set amount of time, for example. It arrives, we jump in, and finish the level. The mobs probably need two different animations, one for standing and shooting, and another for standing behind cover. And when they're behind cover, they really shouldn't be completely hidden, like half their head or half a leg should be sticking out so that you can still kill them. It would be interesting if the mobs could, for example, include a grenadier mob who is especially dangerous, kind of like a boss, so that they could have different weapons, for instance.
You could also have kamikaze types running at you really fast, and you'd have to shoot them first, since they have a bomb strapped to them.
This kind of mechanic would be especially great, in particular in the evacuation waiting mode.
Look, guys, everything really seems to make sense, but it actually feels like the focus is a bit off. It all comes down to it's worth diversifying the number of storylines in these mini levels and basically just wrapping all of this in analytics, testing which ones are the most popular and most completed, and then moving those closer to the start. In other words, extend this chain of constantly cycling from mini mission to mini mission, from storyline to storyline. Why do I think this will work? We show ads between levels. Right now, how much does in-app bring us? 1% of the total revenue. We can improve the store, we can also add meta, but unfortunately that simply won't work because there is nothing substantial to actually build it on. Upgrading weapons is the same thing, we'll just get distracted. So the main thing I see is that the game is perceived as a series of short mini stories. Taking me as a player out of this cycle probably isn't a good idea. On the very first level, they took me to the map and demonstrated to me, just to be clear, where basically it's a contract for me to take someone out. There's a lot of text. I don't care who he is, some criminal, a sniper, or whoever he used to be. None of that is actually really interesting to me. The mechanics themselves. So I enter the scene and I need to do something there. For example, take out the first soldier, take a sniper position, eliminate the enemy, and so on and so on. If we diversify all this, add different storylines, it will be more fun, more interesting, people will come back, the number of completed levels will increase, and then we can build progress on top of all that and return to everything we talked about earlier. I would also recommend removing ads when switching to the menu. They probably just simply provoke users to leave. And ultimately, monetization should be based on getting players to play more and more levels. If we give players some kind of particularly difficult challenge, unnecessarily complicate the mechanics, control the player, make the bots smarter, and so on, that's just building barriers for the player. I think players generally prefer easy progression, and when it's engaging, that's basically the key to success. It's also actually fine if the level is short and the opponents are really dumb. There was already an experiment where they increased the difficulty and it didn't work. Well, I actually think that should already tell us something. Based on the current drop-off rates, by level 10 only about 25% of users remain, and they basically don't come back. If we start sorting and offering interesting levels, try to diversify and extend these levels, so to speak, improve the level funnel, this will increase ad monetization. If we try to do something around in-app purchases, upgrades, or attempts to improve that part, well, only about 1% of users are involved there. Not because the system is bad, but because for now, there's nothing to really build it on.
I think that we actually described the key problem in passing right at the end. People come to play as a sniper, but they're actually playing as a special agent. Maybe we should just give them sniper gameplay for the first 10 to 20 levels and see what happens, perhaps. Basically, do the next iteration there, spin off the special agent as a separate project, and have this one focus more specifically on being a sniper and sniper missions. People came to play as a sniper to blow heads off. So as a matter of fact, let's do exactly that. At very least, it's worth testing.
We'll organize all the ideas into a list of initiatives. We'll try to evaluate them by complexity and impact, and then set priorities. This time the ideas were good, everything was pretty dynamic. Thanks to everyone, really.
Thank you all, friends. See you next time. Subscribe to the CAS.AI channel and hit the bell so you don't miss out on monetization strategies and case studies from the world of mobile games.